here's how I would prepare for the HSBC Simulate Assessment. Couple of things just before we get into that. Let me introduce myself. My name's Owen. I'm a degree apprentice and I help people get degree apprenticeships in the engineering, technology and finance industries. Here are some of the people I helped last year get into companies like Amazon, JLR, Rolls-Royce, KPMG, just to name a few, and I'm already helping people get through to their JP Morgan assessment centers this year. So I wanted to mention JP Morgan here because this is a good representation of how competitive degree apprenticeships are in the finance industry. Okay, so I don't have any specific numbers for HSBC, but for JP Morgan is 143 applicants for one place. That means only the top 0.7% of candidates are going to get in. Now, what's this got to do with HSBC? Well, I don't have any numbers, as I say, for HSBC, but likely it's going to be very high numbers like this. There's going to be a lot of people applying. It's a very popular degree apprenticeship, so you want to make sure you're giving yourself the best chance in this HSBC Simulate Assessment. Okay, so here's how I would personally prepare if I was doing the HSBC Simulate Assessment, and here's the 5 steps I would follow. So let me move over to this Notion document. This Notion document you can find in the description for free. There'll be just a link to it, and you can have all of the links, all the information. You can go and have a look at that after this video, but I'll explain everything step by step in this video. So the first thing is you need to apply. So HSBC degree apprenticeships are now open. If you click on this tweet here, it's going to take you to my Twitter where I do a lot of posts on like the latest, biggest degree apprenticeships that open. There's about 5 different routes. Well, I've just noticed I've made a Twitter spelling mistake or whatever. There we go. That's nice to see. So there's 5 different routes: assessment management, commercial banking, digital business services, global private banking, and wealth and personal banking, all in different locations. So you can go and have a look at that Twitter, and that's going to give you some more information about things like the starting date, the grades you need, the program length, and all that sort of thing. Okay, so first things first, you want to apply. Now, with this application, it is just an application form. Okay, so it's no CV, no cover letter, no application questions, nothing that you actually have to spend time doing. It's literally an application form. Put in your address, your grades, answer a few questions. Nothing you can't do in the next 5 minutes. So there's no excuse not to apply to this. Okay, because you just want to apply. You don't want to risk waiting and then they close. You want to apply as soon as possible. Okay, so pause this video if you haven't applied to the HSBC degree apprenticeship. Go and apply right now and then come back to this video. Okay, so with these degree apprenticeships, once you apply, you are straight away being sent invites to the HSBC Simulate Assessment. Okay, if that's different for any of the roles, leave it in the comments down below. But so far, everyone I've heard from is basically the moment they apply, they're being sent invites to this HSBC Simulate Assessment, which is why I'm making this video to help you with this Simulate Assessment. So what I would do as my second step if I was approaching this, I'd first of all understand this HSBC Simulate Assessment. What are the different questions? Well, this Simulate Assessment, from what HSBC have provided information for us, is basically a job simulation style. Okay, so a job simulation is where they're sort of going to log you onto a software, an online software, and it's going to just give you a bunch of tasks, a bunch of scenarios, sort of imagining that you work for HSBC and you're an employee for the company. And during this sort of job simulation style thing, they're going to give you some situational judgment questions. So if you're in this situation, what would you do? They're going to give you some personality questions. Okay, and this is where they're going to give you a sort of slider and they're going to assess what's your personality like, sort of build up a personality profile of you, because they want people who have certain personalities that is going to mesh with the organization, mesh with the team. Okay. There's going to be formal or informal questions. So these are essentially where they're going to give you a passage, might be like an email, and you have to sort of rate how formal was the response, how informal was the response. Okay, and finally, video interview questions. Okay, so that's what it's going to include in your HSBC Simulate Assessment. This is what information that's come directly from HSBC themselves. Okay, so my next step, if I was approaching this HSBC Simulate Assessment, this is basically what I do. Okay, this is how I would approach the different stages of this. So the first one is the situational judgment and personality questions. The way I see these questions, everything is just a scale. So they might give you 5 different options. Which of these situational judgment ones, rank them 1 to 5, which is best. They might give you a personality slider. Which personality do you match the most? Okay, and you have to choose where you match it. Everything is just a scale. Because in the situational judgment thing, you're going to get a bunch of questions. It's all just thinking about what values do these represent. Okay, so essentially these scenarios which they're going to give you, there's going to be a bunch of options. One of them is going to say I like working independently, and one of them is going to say I'm excited to work as a part of a team. Okay, that's the subtext behind them. You essentially, what I would do is I would just read that and be like, okay, which one do I want to choose? I'll choose the teamwork one. Okay, because essentially it's a scale. It's a scale from, okay, if you choose this option here, then you're independent. But a lot of these companies care about collaboration and teamwork. They want you to work within a team. So you definitely want to choose this one. I'm excited to work as part of a team. Similarly, okay, if you get sort of offered a new role on a new project, it's something you've never done before, would you, A, go and ask someone else to do the task because you've never done it before, you're not very confident? Or would you sort of be thrilled at the opportunity to go and develop your skills? Now, a lot of these companies are looking for people who are growth minded. They have a willingness to learn. They want to develop themselves. So you can be the person who says no to opportunities to develop yourself, or yes to these opportunities because you are so growth orientated. You're going to choose this one, aren't you? Say you make a mistake, you make an error during one of your projects, you notice it. Would you A, not mention the error until it sort of came up in the conversation, you just hoped they didn't notice, or would you proactively sort of mention the error and rectify it? Well, look at the subtext behind that. This one is where you just think about yourself, potentially a bit of dishonesty there. This one is about integrity and honesty. So which one are you going to choose? You have to think about this. It's all just a scale. It's the scale from independence to collaborative. You're going to basically choose the options which are most collaborative. That's what companies are looking for. It's a scale from a fixed mindset where you don't want to learn new things to a growth mindset where you constantly want to develop yourself. It's a scale from just thinking about yourself to integrity and honesty and doing the right thing for the business. I'll give you some more examples. So it's like you can have some scenarios for situational judgment, and it goes from one situation where, oh, something needs to be done, so you go and tell someone else to do it, or you go and do it yourself. You come and take that personal responsibility yourself. You're going to choose the option where you do it yourself because you're taking that personal responsibility. You're taking ownership. Shows you're not just going to pass on tasks to everyone else and not do anything yourself. Another common one they have in these situational judgment sort of personality questions is, say a new innovative way of performing a task gets created, okay? Would you A, stick with the current method that you've done the whole time, or B, sort of experiment and have a go at this new method, learn this new method? Well, you want to choose the new method, right? Because that shows innovation. And these are the kind of values these companies care about. Innovation, doing new things, personal responsibility, teamwork, collaboration, integrity. So that's how I'd approach this. Okay, I would just be thinking about these companies' values, their skills. Okay, they're looking for someone who's got communication skills. They're looking for someone who's got collaboration skills. I'm not just going to say that I love working independently because that wouldn't match those. You want to match the values, match the skills. Okay, it's all just a scale. You have to read into the subtext behind it. Let's do 4 practice questions now. I'm going to put them on screen. These are ones that HSBC themselves have published. So let's have a look at them and I'll explain how I would answer them if I was doing this assessment. Of course, there's loads of different strategies you can do going into this assessment. I'm just giving you what I would personally do if I was going to do it, if I wanted to try and give myself the best chance. This is just how I would do it. Okay, so there's a sort of situational judgment question here that HSBC have published themselves. 5 different sort of responses to the situation, and you can sort of rank them 1 to 5, which one's the best, which one's the least effective. Okay, so the way I'd look at this is, for example, this one, I would put this one quite low down. Okay, 5 or 4, because this one is saying, it's basically by the way, the context for this question is you're being asked, do you want to take the lead on this new project? Like there's this new project that you've never really done before. Do you want to take the lead on the project, or do you want to just sort of help out the team, like sort of supporting role or leading role essentially? I wouldn't go with this one because I'd put it like down the bottom 4 or 5, because this is basically you just supporting someone. You're saying, okay, if an opportunity was given to me to go and lead a project, would I lead the project or just support? It comes back again to personal responsibility and ownership. I think it's a better answer personally to say you'll take that personal responsibility and take ownership of the situation. Yes, I will come and lead this project, even if it might be difficult, rather than sort of taking a back seat and be like, no, I'll let someone else do the hard work and I'll just offer a tiny bit of support. And again, it comes back to growth and development. If you choose the option where you're saying, yes, I know this is a difficult role, I've never done this before, but I'm ready to learn, I want to learn about it, it's going to show that you have this growth-orientated mindset. Okay, and sometimes these questions are difficult. It's not always like black and white, but essentially just give it the best you can possibly give it and just try and look for that subtext, those sort of values beneath it. Like this one, for example, this one sort of gives me a subtext of independence, because it's saying you'll feel energized when you have your own part of the project to own. And this is where there can be varying strategies here, because in one sense this could be a good one because it's showing leadership and you want ownership, but also it could be showing a bad thing because you want to do something on your own. Maybe you're independent. Are you a team worker? Are you collaborative? Because it's not always black and white, but just where you can, I'd be going into this, trying to just read into the subtext. So for example, this one, I think this E one is very good. Because you're taking the lead, you're excited for it, you're taking ownership. This one is just really good. You're volunteering. Okay, boom. This one seems a bit less, I would say, a bit less enthusiastic. Because rather than this one where you're saying, yep, I'm going to volunteer, lead on a specific element, here you just say, oh, I'm kind of interested in taking the lead on some key elements, like some of it. So it's a bit less enthusiastic. It's a bit less excited for this opportunity. So I'd say E is a good one here. So yeah, the way I do this is E, I think, is really good first. So I'd put that first because of ownership and leadership and sort of taking action, taking responsibility. Then I'd say A because it shows you're a good team worker. That's really good. Then C or D maybe because they're a tiny bit weaker. And then probably B, I'd leave. Okay, and obviously everyone will have done that and they'll have come up with different scenarios. Okay, but that's just how I would do it. Okay. Right, there's these three personality ones where essentially you just have to move a slider across. Where are you on the personality? So have a go at these three for a second. Just pause it and just have a think. Where would you be on the slider? Where would you put yourself? And then I'll give you what my strategy would be. So this one, I prefer working on tasks that I know I can complete successfully or that involve learning new skills. Now, if you put it all the way down here, you say you only prefer working on tasks that I know I can complete successfully. It shows that you don't have this growth mindset because you're not there for the new skills. It also shows you don't want to step out your comfort zone because you're scared of failure. That's what this is saying, because you're basically saying, I only like tasks where I know I'm going to be successful. That shows that, yeah, it shows that you are scared of that failure. You're not prepared to step out your comfort zone. You're not prepared to develop yourself, grow, and that sort of thing. Whereas this one is involved learning new skills. So what I would do is I'd probably push this one to over here. Okay, you don't want to necessarily go too far, because it's still like good to have the aspect of, yeah, you like knowing you can do things successfully because you don't want to take loads of risks and like all that sort of thing. So I'd probably move it to around here. That's where I personally would put it. This one, I prefer to learn new things quickly using tried and tested methods. Okay, I want you to think about this. Remember before when I said read into the subtext, read into like the sort of scale, like the what values is it thinking about? Do you know what value this is specifically referring to? This is referring to the value of innovation. Okay, and growth mindset as well, to be fair. Innovation and growth mindset. So you wouldn't, I don't think, in my opinion, you wouldn't want to put it down here. Because that's saying you're just, oh, I want to use the same methods over and over again. I don't want to do any innovation. I don't want to learn new things. I don't want to grow, that sort of thing. So I would probably try and keep it as far away from this one as possible. So I would put mine on this end to show that, yep, I'm not just about tried and tested methods. I want to do new, innovative ways of doing some things. And on top of that, I can learn new things quickly. I'm adaptable. I'm a quick learner. So I would probably put it about here. Because I wouldn't put it on the very end because that's just a bit bait. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just a bit too... It's a bit too suspect, I think, if you just go... Because obviously, like, the best situation, I think, is probably to put it on the very end here. But I think it's a tiny bit too suspect. So I'd probably put it, like, around here or something like that. But I would put it over to this end. To me, analysing data is energizing or draining. Here, it's like... This one's pretty easy, right? What are you going to say? Oh, I hate analysing data. Well, congratulations, you're going into a finance degree apprenticeship where you're going to have to analyse like statistics and graphs and numerical stuff. What are you going to do? Put it on fully draining. So for me, again, I'd be putting it at this top end. I wouldn't want to be bait about it and just put it like crazily at the top. So maybe I'd put it like somewhere around here is where I'd put it. Okay, so that's just my strategy. That's how I answer those questions. Look at the subtext, see what you can see how it links to values, try and be the candidate they're looking for. Okay, and I wouldn't worry too much about these questions because, yeah, to be honest, these personality and situational judgment questions, you get somewhere they're just kind of weird and they're just kind of like you don't really know what to put. So I wouldn't worry too much about them, but that's sort of the mindset I would go through when I'm doing these questions. Now, the next type of questions is sort of formal and informal questions. They might give you like an email and basically ask you to rank. How formal is it? How informal is it? So if there's slang, any informal language, like cheers mate, then obviously it's going to be too informal. Okay. Also, if they're oversharing, sort of, what do I mean by oversharing? How could I explain this? If it's like an email and they're going into a whole load of personal stuff, then I'd say that's probably a bit informal. You're trying to keep it professional, to the point, concise, whatever the topic is. So that's what I'd say is informal. And then Formal is like you're professional, you're to the point, kind regards, or you all like there's no slang or anything. This one's fairly obvious, okay? If you have like an understanding, it's like what would you email to a teacher, and then what wouldn't you email to a teacher, essentially, and that's like what you can sort of think about it. Okay, so this one's pretty easy, to be honest. Now moving on to the video interview questions. So there are going to be some video response questions. You want to make sure you prepare for these. If you've never done an interview before, if you've only done a couple before, I'd strongly recommend doing practice on like sort of common interview questions, because maybe you've never done like an interview before. You're probably not going to be very good at it the first time. I'll just be completely honest. Okay, so make sure you're sort of preparing and you are practicing. So in particular, there's a whole bunch of common interview questions which I've sort of gone through in videos over the past year essentially. But there's sort of two types I would say focus on for this one. Okay, so I'm just thinking, how deep do I want to go on interview questions? You know, I'll give you guys a brief like overview of interview questions in case you haven't seen any of my videos. So this is like just sort of a course I made to help some of my students with video interviews. But essentially, there's a couple of different types of questions. There's general questions, which are sort of like, why do you want the role? What's your strengths? Why do you want to work for this company? What's your biggest weakness? All this sort of thing, sort of general stuff. Then there's like star-based questions, which are like, tell me about a time when, and you have to give an example from your past. And then there's sort of hypothetical questions, like, what would you do if, and then it gives you a situation. Now in video interviews, especially like sort of job simulation interviews like this one, they don't usually ask star-based questions, okay? Normally they wait for these questions in sort of the real interview when you're with a real person. So personally, I wouldn't be preparing for these star-based questions. Now, obviously, a star-based question could come up, right? It's possible. So maybe I'd just have a quick look through, make sure I'm sort of ready. But me personally, I would not be focusing on them, because mainly in video interviews, it's more the general questions here and the hypothetical questions here. Okay, so that's what I'd be focused on. Literally be going through this list sort of here, getting an answer prepared for all of these different ones. So I know, what do you know about this company? Okay, get your HSBC answer ready. What are your strengths? Get that ready. Why do you want to do a degree apprenticeship? Get that ready. And same with these hypothetical ones. Just be ready for these sort of questions, because that's what is likely to come up in this job simulation. Like, it might give you a situation. This happens. What would you do? How would you manage your time in this specific situation? How would you respond to this email in this specific situation? Okay, so those are the two types of questions I would personally focus on ready for this. And another thing, with your video interview questions, I would be considering HSBC's values. There's been a big focus in what they've been putting out there in terms of content. HSBC have explicitly said, focus on our values. So it's like they're giving their information away. They're giving the mark scheme away. They're probably marking you on their values. So I've included a link here in the Notion document. Goes to their values. This is the most important page of research you can have. Make sure you know this back to front. They have 4 values. We value difference, succeed together, take responsibility, we get it done. And you can get a bit more information from it here. And here's where you can get some keywords ready for your interviews. Keywords like empathy, diversity, inclusivity. Being accountable, good judgment, high standards, responsibility, having an impact, long-term, sustainable. Can you research a bit about how HSBC has been sustainable? Entrepreneurial, decisive, dynamic. Are you ready to show off those adaptability skills, those agility skills? That's what I would focus on in the video interview. So I'd prepare for those sort of common questions, and then I would make sure in my answers, where possible, can I refer to values? Can I refer to research? Now, step 4, I would take HSBC's practice assessment. So HSBC have actually put together a practice assessment, which is where a lot of this information is from in this video, and that's how it would help me prepare. So they'll have sent a link over to their sort of candidate hub, where they've got a HSBC practice assessment for their job simulate assessment, right? So I would go and do that. Just bear in mind, I am not HSBC, so if they haven't sent it to you or you have any issues, please don't leave any like sort of comments below asking me, oh, Owen, where's the link to the it's nothing to do with me. I have no idea, right? I'm just saying, if I was applying, I would make sure I do this HSBC practice assessment, which they should have sent you at some point, okay? I would then immediately take the real assessment, okay? Now, the reason for this is, just think about a football game. Right, so a football game, before the 90 minutes starts, they're all out on the pitch, got the keeper out, they have like the second goal out, they got the fountains going as well, they got everyone in their little training shirts and their bibs, cones out, they're doing the warm-up, yeah? Do the warm-up, go back in, 10 minutes later, come out, do the little standing thing, listen to the song, right, whatever, and then start the game, right? No one goes up to a football player and they're like, they're sleeping, and then they're like, wake up, you're going to do a football match in 30 seconds. You know what I mean? They have to warm up. This is like an obvious thing. You have to warm up for sport. We all know that by now. Go into the gym. Don't go straight into 80-kilogram bench press. Do a couple of arm swings. Do a couple of stretches, that sort of thing, so you don't get injured. It's the exact same with this. If you sort of go into the real HSBC assessment raw, like, I don't know, first thing you do in your day, or maybe you just randomly one evening, you're like, sure, let's just go do a HSBC assessment. You click on the link, boom, you're in it. You're not going to be mentally prepared. Okay, well, I say you're not going to be mentally prepared. I'm specifically talking about myself here, because I know for me, I wouldn't be mentally prepared. Okay, this is just how I would do it. What I would do is I'd want to warm myself up on the practice assessment, because that's how I'm going to get locked in. I'm going to get into flow state. I'm going to be like, okay, I'm getting used to this. Yep, this is good. Okay, now I understand it. Boom, let's go into the real assessment. Because then I'm going to be locked in. I'm ready to go. I'm in flow state. I'm warmed up. Okay, so that's how I'd personally do it. Set aside 2-3 hours, I don't know how much time you need to do the practice assessment and then the real assessment in one go. So you're sort of just ready to go. You're fresh. And it's not like you start the real assessment and you can't even remember like how you're supposed to answer a video interview question, or you can't even remember like what the values are or what you're supposed to do. It's like it's all been in your mind from the practice assessment. That's what I'd personally do. Okay, so I hope you've got value from this video, and I hope it has helped you. This has basically been 5 steps of how I would personally prepare for the HSBC Simulate Assessment if I wanted to do the best I possibly could. If you guys find this sort of video valuable, just one thing I'd ask, just go and leave a like on the video, and then I know to basically make more of these sort of step-by-step breakdowns for different companies, different parts of the application process. If you've got any suggestions of companies you want me to do a video like this for, just go put it in the comments. Okay, so I hope this video has given you value, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Peace out.